class, Mr. Garino here, going to show you the next video in our series on making our website. So far, I'm going to go to my documents folder and then click on my website folder, which you guys also should do. So far we should have 3 files in our folder. A dog picture that we put on our page, or if you made a different type of picture and got it to work, that's okay. Index.html and then main.css. And notice that I'm saying the .css and the .html. You need to see that. It's very helpful when designing a website. If you don't see that, and I showed you this, but some people may have missed it, you go to View in Windows Explorer. This is called Windows Explorer, or now in Windows 10 they call it File Explorer. But either way, you go to the View tab and you check this box. So checking it off hides the extensions. Checking it shows the extensions. So it's important to see those extensions when you're designing a website. So make sure that they're on. Okay, something I wanted to point out, for some crazy reason, this is November 2018, there was an update to Windows 10 in the fall. For some reason I want to change this default program from Dreamweaver, which is an Adobe program, to Notepad, because I want to keep things simple for you guys. But I can't change the default program that it opens with. I've tried everything. I've searched online, and the only thing I can find out is Microsoft is a big jerk of a company, and their fall creators update did something with the way users could change default programs, and it's made it difficult in some instances to change the default program. So you probably all see the little notepad icon here. So if I open this, I have to go the long way all the time, where if you see the notepad icon over here, then you could just double click it. I can't double click it because it's going to open in Dreamweaver, and I don't want you guys, I don't want to show you how to use that because that's a whole lot of more work. So I have to right click, open with notepad. You probably don't have to do that. And it opened on my other screen because I'm using 2 screens. You probably don't have to do that, but if you don't see the notepad icon, if you're having the same issue as I'm having, then you will have to right click and say open with to get that to open. The main.css doesn't need to open in 2 different programs, just the one that you're going to work on to edit it. However, the index.html does open in 2 different programs, one program to edit it, one program to see it. So right now I have my default set for Chrome, so when I double click this, it opens up in Chrome, which is what we've been doing, and that makes sense. If I want to edit it, I do have to right click and say open with, and then choose Notepad. And that makes sense too, because obviously if you're going to open it 2 different ways, one's going to be the default double click. Any other way you want to open it, you're going to have to right click and choose that other way. Okay, while we're here, I've noted that I made a little typo when I was making my first couple of videos. Well, when I made the first video and didn't catch it until after the second video was done, as I was preparing to make this video, and I realized this is not supposed to be an equals, that's supposed to be a dash. Probably, if it was wrong, you would have never even probably noticed it. A lot of people don't even bother to put the dash US, they just put language equals EN. That's in English, and just leave it at that. But I wanted to show you sort of everything that goes along with this attribute, so I showed you that, but then I goofed. So change that to a dash and then just resave this. Don't do save as, because save as brings up the dialog box and you might choose one of the wrong settings. This one we already set the settings correctly, so just do save. Okay, then we're going to close this out, and so now we are going to begin to make a website. All we made so far was a web page, index.html. And by the way, if you're wondering why I made you name it index.html, if I hadn't previously stated this, let me go over it again. When anyone goes to a website, any type of website, the default page that loads is index.html. That's like the landing page, the starting page. That's what a browser looks for when you type in an address. It goes to their server and it says, hey, show me the index.html page. And from there, all the links go to all the other pages within their website. So that's why we named ours index.html. However, now that we're going to make a website, this page is really just our test page. So let's do this. We're going to copy this and we're going to paste it, and then we're going to change the name, and then we'll have two files. And so the way you would copy it is you could right click and say copy. Remember, if you right click over here and you don't actually get the file, sometimes people they right click over here, that's the white area. Notice I don't have a copy command because I really haven't chosen anything. So you have to actually click on the file name so you can get copy. You can also go over to home, click on this once, left click, say copy, or you could do Control C for copy, however you like to do it. So I'm going to right click, choose copy, and then to paste, you want to make sure you don't right click on this again, because you don't get the paste menu because it's the menu that goes along with right clicking on a file. You want to right click in the empty white space and you'll get a different menu, and then you say paste. And notice it names it the same thing, dash copy HTML. So we're going to rename this to test.html. Okay, and if you open it in Notepad, you're going to see it looks like this. That's the test one, and of course the index one better look the same way because it's the same file, right? We just made a copy of it. So it's the same file, of course. We're going to leave the test alone. We're not going to change that, but we're going to change our index.html file because that's going to be our starting of our website. So this was all the code that we're just playing around with just to test. So we are going to leave doc type HTML up here, our corrected en-us, and then our head tag. And maybe space this out. Maybe I should have did this before. I'm going to space this out. Maybe bring this up. I'm hitting delete. We're not going to style anything in our head section because we're going to get all of our styles the best way from our main.css. Once you start making your actual pages, if you do want to style something differently, you can add this. But for right now, we don't know that we want to style anything differently. So let's get rid of this whole thing. And again, we're working on index.html, not the test page. That stays where it was. Okay, so our head section is just the page title, our link to our CSS sheet, and telling the browser that we're using the character set UTF-8. In our page title, since this index is the first page everyone sees, it's probably normal to call it home page. If you already know what you want to make for a website, and you know you're going to make a website all about the New York Giants, you might want to just put Giants here, or Giants homepage. But that's up to you. It's just the title that appears on the tab of the browser. Which of course brings me to a very important part of making a website. You all were supposed to have already done this. Think about what type of website you want to make. So we're going to make a website of 5 pages. We're going to have a home page, we're going to have a page for our animations, and then 3 other pages of things that interest you. So let me show you the 3 things I'm going to do. But first, so we're going to get to that 3 things I'm going to do. But first, we don't need all this stuff in the body because we're not going to have a dog. We don't have to have a link to Garino Land and this color stuff and the blue tide. We don't need all that. So everything in the body we're going to delete. So I'm going to highlight all this so we have an empty body. And I'm just going to put a space there for clarity. So all of our content goes in here. Okay, this is just setting up the page. This is where our content goes. So before I go on telling you how to set up pages for a website, why don't we take a look at some that some students had done previously. So I'm going to go to my website, Garino Land, and I'm going to click on Harrison High School, and I'm going to go over to student work, and I'm going to look at last year's websites. So I think this girl did a pretty good one, and you'll see that her website looks like she's got a home page. She's got animations, so animations that she made in our class go on her website. And then she's got a page called memorable movie quotes. She's going to have another page called My Favorite Video Games and another page called My Favorite Sports Team. Okay, so I want everyone to have 5 pages for their website. Okay, because that would make a website. I mean, 2 pages is kind of like, is that really a website? So you got 5, it starts looking like a website. And we can click around. Here's our movie quotes, video games, sports teams. Okay, so this is what we're looking to make. Okay, so one of the things we want to do is we want to get this navigation bar up here so we can go from one page to another by just clicking around. So any page we click on, it goes to. Okay, so let's go and do that. And as we do that, notice that that web page I was just showing you, it looks good on a computer screen. It might not look so good on a cell phone screen or a tablet screen because we're not doing this thing called media queries. And if you don't know what that is, let me show you. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because if you make your website and then I put it on my Garinoland website and queries, I don't know if it's 2 R's or 1 R, and I put it on my Garinoland website and you go and look at it on your phone, you're like, that doesn't really look good. Well, our course is a half a year, so we have 5 months. And out of that half year, we're throwing in like maybe a month worth of making a website. And really just making a website so we have some place to put our animations, which is really what the course is, computer animation. So we can't spend too much time on it. We just don't have the time to spend. But this is what a media query is. A media query, basically, when you go to a website, depending on the device you're using, the media query asks your device, hey, what size are you? Computer screen, tablet screen, cell phone screen, based on the size. And once it finds out the size, it sets up the site to work appropriately for that screen size. And so once it determines the size of your screen, it shows you the website setup that's appropriate for your screen size. And it does things like this. It asks your width and it sets up, and over here they're just showing you an example, different colors. But you could have a whole website that's inside this body, and a whole website that's inside this body, and a whole website that was inside this body, based on what the size of the screen was. And that's called, usually a lot of people call it responsive web design. Right? So that lets you respond to the user as to what size they're using, what size screen they're using, and then show them a website that works good for their screen. But that really goes beyond the course that I'm teaching. It would take too much time. We would never get done. So we're going to keep it simple and just make it for a computer screen. And it will still work on a phone or any other thing, but the navigation bar is going to be kind of small because it won't be able to fit so well. It'll work, but it might just not look as great as it could. Okay, so keeping it simple. All right, so inside the body, what's customary to do is to set up a division of the web page. Our screen, most screens are 1920 by 1080 nowadays, not all. Okay, so if we make our web page the full 1920 by 1080 and someone's using a smaller screen size on their computer, things might be thrown off a little bit. So one thing you can do is kind of divide the page up into sections as like a standard way things were done, probably I would say years ago, before lots of people started looking at websites on their phone and tablets and things like that. Okay, so what you do is you start with an open angle bracket and you say div. It stands for divide or division, and then you give it an ID and you say that's equal to, and then in quotes, whatever you want to call it. And I've seen this a lot, big wrapper, and then you end the quotes and you end the angle bracket. And then you come down here and you have to close that division or that divide. So you say, and then of course it's the same thing except slash, div. Okay, so this big wrapper, basically what that does is it wraps all the code inside of something which we'll style later on. But that gives us a way to style a big box on our website, basically. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to design our top menu. So we're going to open angle bracket. And before HTML5, everything was just a divide. You divide a box for your content, an area for your navigation, an area for the main section of your content. Everything was just a div. But what people realized is when search engines look at your website, they don't want to search for everything. They don't want to get hits based on what your navigation structure is. They just want to search for content. So they changed the standard, and HTML5 now has different names you can use for divisions. So instead of just calling this a division, since I know we're making a navigation bar, we're going to use the new name called nav, which probably isn't news so much anymore because HTML5 has been out for a while. Oops. Equals, and then quotes, and it's going to be the top menu. So we're going to call it top underscore menu. Remember, no spaces in any of this stuff. Close our quotes and close our angle bracket. And then of course this needs to be closed somewhere down below. And so slash nav and then angle bracket. You don't actually have to type that in now. You could have typed it in later, but if you type it in now, you won't forget it. Okay, so now we're going to make links to each one of our pages. And the way that you do that is you make a list, like if you're using Microsoft Word or Google Docs and you have a list, you can have a bulleted list or a numbered list. So let's see the two different ones. And a list is called OL, as in ordered list. And that's the opening tag. And I'm hitting tab one time to move over, and then opening bracket slash the OL, and then close the bracket. Go up to this line, hit tab twice to indent it further, and then each link in your list is a list item. So the tag is LI for list item. Really, this is like making a table. If you've ever used Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, this is like table cells or table rows with columns. In this case, we're just going to have one row, so it would just be a row. Okay, so here's our list item, and then we're going to link it to something. So we need our I'll put that over here, and then H reference. So where's our hyperlink going? And the first button that we're going to see equals, sorry I keep hitting shift, quotes, is going to be to our index page, index.html. Close the quotes, close the angle bracket. What do we want the text to appear on our button, on our link that we saw on the web page example that I showed you? You can have the text be anything you want. The file name has to be the name of the file in your folder. It has to be index.html. But the text, you could put my home page, you could put Giants, you could put click here, you could put anything you want. How about if we just keep it simple and say home? Okay, then we open another angle bracket to close our A tag, and then we open another angle bracket to close our list item. Okay, so this is the proper syntax for a list item. You have your LI tags, your A tags, and in between the opening and closing A tags, you have what text you want to appear, and of course, inside the opening A tag, you put your H reference. Now, you can type all this stuff again. Honestly, I kind of hate typing, so I'm just going to copy this. The one thing you have to be careful of when you copy and paste, make sure you change the things you need to change. So over here, we're going to have a page called animations. That's going to be the actual file name. What are we going to say for link? Well, you could put my animations, or you could just put animations. And then I'll copy and paste this again, but of course it's still in on my clipboard. So I'll just leave it the way it was. Hit Control V to paste again. And the next one I'm going to do is called memorable. Should have deleted that first, doesn't really matter, but memorable, because this is what interests me. And things off the top of my head I want to make a website about. Memorable movie quotes. So quotes in movies that were memorable. And then over here, I'll say the same thing. And since I don't like to type, I'll copy this and paste it here. But that's not the way you want it to look as a button on your website. You want it to look like real, regular English. Capital this, a space, because you can use spaces here. This is just the text that appears. This isn't the link. So memorable movie quotes. Of course, now if I go to paste, all I have is memorable movie quotes, because I did a copy paste. So let's get rid of this and copy this one again. Doesn't matter which one you copy. I like using Control C and Control V. And then this page, my next thing I want to make is called video games. I could put my favorite video games. I'll just call it video games. And I don't always like using underscores, so I'm just running it together in one word. But over here, maybe rather than just memorable movie quotes like I did before, or memorable video games, I might say my favorite. And the reason why I'm doing this different ways is to show you, you can do it any way you want. This is your website. And then the last one, I mean, if you want to do 6 pages, you could. I really don't want anyone to do only 3 or 4. Let's shoot for 5. And then the last one, instead of video games, I'll just say sports. And then over here, I'll put my favorite sports team. Not actually even going to make this page, because I'm just going to show you to make a page or two, and then that'll be good enough. My favorite sports team. Maybe a good idea to save this now. And it's index.html. It's already saved like that, so don't do save as, just do save. Okay, so here's our ordered list. I'm going to delete this twice just to bring that up. Go to the end here, hit delete. Some of you people like to go here and hit backspace. That works too. That's up to you. I like hitting delete, whatever. So let's save this again. Not that it's going to make a difference, because all we did was take out white space, which the browser doesn't see. And let's move this over and double click it and see what it looks like. Okay, so right now you see up here it says homepage. That's my title. And I have an ordered list, number 1 through 5, with links that I can click and it'll go. It won't go to these pages. I didn't make them yet. And this looks really yucky, but I can click animations. Nope, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I can click home and it goes there, but of course I'm already there, so it doesn't really look like it's moving. But we don't get the error, like if I click on animations, it says I can't find that page. But the home page it can find. So that's actually a working link, but it looks terrible. So we're going to see how to style this with, of course, CSS, because that's how we style things. Right now we're just doing the content. So we have our content. This is an ordered list. You can also have an unordered list, which is a UL. Well, a UL looks a little bit differently. If we go and open this, it's the same thing, but instead of numbers it has bullets. And you'll see that the home thing still works, but the other ones don't. And the point to that is, neither one matters, UL, OL, because we're going to, with our CSS, we're going to tell this page how to look, or the navigation how to look on all our pages. So the way it looks right now, all yucky, doesn't really matter. Alright, so let's finish this up. After navigation, we're going to set up another div, and this other div is just going to be our main section where we put in all of our information. So let me scroll down a little bit. So I like looking high on the screen rather than low, so that's why I like scrolling down. Anyway, our opening, angle tag, and then a section division. So again, browsers won't look at this information, or they'll look at it and they'll know that this is the main section, this is where the good stuff is. The navigation section, well, that's just the navigation of their website, so that doesn't really contain information, so to speak. That's how it makes web searches find your website more effectively or more accurately. Okay, so our ID for this is going to be main underscore section, and close the quotes, close the angle bracket, and then we have to close that by doing the same thing but with the slash in front, so slash section. Okay, so in here is going to be where we put stuff. So let us just say something simple like we already know. Let's put an H1 tag, and let's just, since this is our home page right now, let's just call it welcome to my website. And then of course close your H1 tag and do file save, and then go back over here and double click it, and there you go. So this is your first page, your index.html. Of course this looks terrible, so we have to go and style this. Let me end this video here, and then we'll go and style it in a different video. But right now you have all your content that you need on your index page, and once we do all of our styling in our main.css and it looks nice, then we can actually go and make other pages from this. But I'd rather style it first, because if I make other ugly looking pages from this, people might be saying as you're watching this like, oh, this all looks terrible, why are we doing that? So let's leave this one the way it is right now, looking terrible as we know, and go and do all of our styles for our index page. Then when we copy this page and make other pages like my favorite video games, all of that styling will already be there and it'll be looking good right from the get-go. Okay, so that's how you set up your very first page for your website. Remember, the test page we're going to leave alone. That was our one with the dog. We copied, we pasted, we changed it. We're all set up to go with our website. If you want to take out some of this white space so you can see what's there, of course you always end with the closing body and HTML tag. So make sure you save this, and then we'll go on to the next video. Thank you.